Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I've been off for a bit with a bit of a cold, but I'm back in fine form and ready to jump into some more fun costuming adventures. It's fall, and fast approaching that one day of the year where people dress up as minions, or Elsa, or Superman, or dinosaurs, or as cosplayers like to call it, any other day of the week. I've been feeling quite nostalgic about Comic-Cons lately, and I know people are looking for budget-friendly costumes at this time of year, so I thought it would be fun to share my 4 favorite cosplays and how I put them together. Note that these are not in chronological order, but rather approximate order of favoritism. I have been a cosplayer since 2013, and my goal with my cosplays, no matter the fandom, is to make the best costumes I can while not breaking the bank. To do so, I have become very adept at DIY and scouring thrift stores for that perfect piece that will make my costume just... Do note, I'm not including the obvious project here, the layer cake behind me, as I just finished it last year during lockdowns, and apart from photos, I haven't had a place to wear it to yet. So first off, from the show Arrow, we have Sara Lance, aka the Canary. Not to be confused with Laurel Lance, aka the Black Canary. The majority of this cosplay I did not make. I did, however, buy it secondhand off a cosplay for sale group on Facebook. It did feel rather fitting, an evening clandestine meeting in a McDonald's. A short greeting, money passed between hands, exchanged for a bag of mysterious contents. The pants, jacket, and belt I left exactly as is. They were perfect. The biggest change I made to this outfit was with the top. On the show, Sara Lance wears a leather-ish corset while she's fighting bad guys. The top that came with this costume was neither leather nor corset. There is no support in it whatsoever. Thankfully, I had an overbust corset in my closet, and I actually hand-stitched the two together and threaded the lacing through both sets of eyelets. This being the most amount of skin I have bared for a cosplay ever, and knowing that wearing a corset against bare skin is a cardinal sin, I opted for a black tank top underneath. Not the most screen accurate, but it kept my skin and corset safe, and made me feel just a little bit more comfortable with the whole cleavage situation. The gloves were another thing that had to be changed, as the ones that came with the costume were bulky and looked super fake. So I chopped the cuffs off and sewed them to a pair of leather riding gloves. The boots I found at a thrift store, and while they fit well enough at the store, I discovered halfway through the day that I accidentally bought boots that are a size too big, which might not seem like much, but the blisters on my feet after a day of conventioning say otherwise. The mask I did make myself. After scouring the internet for literal days looking for a pattern, the construction itself was pretty easy. I traced the pattern from my computer screen using parchment paper for a mock-up. Once I had it the right size, I traced it onto black craft foam. Once cut out and details added, I used the heat from a gas stove to make it moldable and pressed it against my face while warm to mold it to the shape of my face. I repeated the process a couple times until I was happy with the shape. To get it to stay on, I used spirit gum, first brushing over the entire back of the mask, and then touching up around the edges once it was stuck on. There isn't much makeup involved with Sara, but there is a solid layer of black around the inside of the mask and over her eyelids. That was pretty easy, but weird as all get out to actually put on. I used a combination of kohl eyeliner, black cream eyeliner, and matte black eyeshadow. The wig I bought on eBay, and for anyone wanting to take their wig game to the next level, you need this. Mane and tail. It seriously changed my wig game. The wig I got was cheap, and it looked it. To make your wig look like $1,000,000, or at least semi-realistic, you need a metal brush. I used a doggy brush from the dollar store, and mane and tail. All you need is a little drop at a time. Any more and the wig will look greasy and heavy. Rub it into the small strands little at a time, and then brush it out, starting at the bottom and working your way up. For example, this is another wig I had before and after. The change is huge and looks even better in person. The final piece of the costume is the bow staff. Sara uses a collapsible bow staff that also turns into 2 pieces. Still not sure how. Obviously, you cannot bring real metal weapons into a convention, so I had to get creative. This is 1/2-inch PVC piping. I added couplers part of the way along to make a handle shape, and to make it look like I could split it in two if I wanted to. A couple coats of silver spray paint and clear varnish later, and I had a convention-friendly bow staff. Total cost of this costume was probably about $120 for the costume itself, the wig, the boots, PVC, and miscellaneous supplies. So this costume was awesome. It fulfilled my goal of being the kick-butt vigilante Canary, and it was the first time a celebrity ever complimented me on a cosplay. Yes, I did scream in a public bathroom when I saw that, but during a recent declutter of my closet, I actually decided to sell this cosplay. I've gained a few pounds since I wore this 4 years ago, and while I would like to get to the point of being able to wear something like this again, right now I like closet space more. Also, conventions don't have a lot of chairs, and sitting on the floor in an overbust corset, not the most comfortable thing in the world. Next on my list is Kaylee from the cult classic TV show Firefly. I am a diehard browncoat, and Firefly is tied with Doctor Who for the amount of characters / outfits that I've done. Most cosplays I've done start with me randomly finding a single article of clothing and then building the rest of the outfit around it, and Kaylee is no exception. My first coverall outfit started with a jumpsuit I found on clearance at Winners. I bought the little red heart at a fabric store and the teddy bear off eBay. The little flower I crocheted myself using embroidery floss and a tutorial I found on Pinterest. I found a great tutorial online for the Chinese writing and drew it out with a broad Sharpie. Kaylee is known for her skills as a mechanic and is often found covered in smudges of engine grease. I wanted to replicate that, but engine grease isn't actually that healthy for your skin. To age the coveralls, I first diluted dark brown and black acrylic paint and splattered it on with a toothbrush. For actual smudges, I used Rub and Buff. It's a wax-based product commonly used for aging things like picture frames and furniture. It comes in a few different metallic finishes, but I used ebony, and it worked pretty stinkin' awesome. You just want to make sure you don't overdo it, as it's easy to smudge a bit too much, and then you risk losing the details of the appliques or writing. I had so much fun with this cosplay, and because it wasn't actually industrial coveralls, it was nice and cool for a summer con. There was only one downside to this outfit, and that is it started its life as a fast fashion jumpsuit, which means it was built for a elvish body, and I am a hobbit. If I were 5'4", it would have fit perfectly, but alas, I am not. I kind of felt like Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins when he was dancing with the penguins in those schleppy pants. I have since upgraded my coveralls, as I managed to snag a pair of the officially licensed ones from ThinkGeek in one of their last clearance sales before they closed. I haven't had a chance to wear them to a convention yet, but they look and feel so much more like the real deal. The shoes are steel-toed work shoes that I bought when I worked in a kitchen. Super comfy for walking all day, and they totally look like they belong in an engine room. I found the top at a thrift store, which actually took a surprising amount of time to find. I have since found a second, longer sleeve shirt, which will work especially well for winter conventions, and I can't wait to try it out sometime. It's often missed, but Kaylee wears a pendant, and I had to do something as close as I could. Hers is made from a milfoil glass bead, which, try as I might, I could not find anything close. I instead used a rose quartz bead, added a little bit of blue glittery nail polish for texture variation, and strung it onto a leather cord. Makeup was pretty easy, as apart from the episode Shindig, Kaylee doesn't wear makeup. I went with my everyday no makeup look as a base, and then used a combination of dark contour powder and matte black eyeshadow for all over dirt, and the same cream eyeliner I used on Canary for some more skin-friendly engine grease smudges. I also carried a little wooden box with a couple of ripe strawberries for photo shoots, and it made the photo experiences so much more fun. Seriously, props are awesome. Another Kaylee piece I haven't had a chance to take out for a spin, but made in 2020, is her iconic pinwheel parasol. I spotted a plain white paper parasol at a thrift store just before the lockdowns and scooped it into my cart so fast. I sketched out the spokes of the parasol using screenshots to get the progression of colors right, and then used acrylic craft paint for the colors. This was one of my favorite non-sewing projects of 2020. The cost of this outfit was initially about $30. as I found everything either on clearance or thrifted and used accessories I had on hand. Updating it probably cost about $40, as I got the official coveralls for a fraction of the retail price, but added the parasol. Either way, it's a great cosplay for someone looking for something simple, easily recognizable, but that won't break the bank. For the next project, we're jumping further back in time to one of my earliest cosplays. It was also my first really independent sewing project, and instead of being sensible like some people starting out on their sewing journey, I ambitiously decided to take on a frock coat with contrast piping all around the edges. That's right, the Fifth Doctor from Doctor Who. This all started, as the best adventures often do, when I found a brightly colored pair of striped trousers at a thrift store. I was instantly struck with the urge to cosplay as the Fifth Doctor. The only question was how to put it all together. The bottom half of the costume was super easy and cheap. The pants, as I mentioned, came from the thrift store. I think they were supposed to be capris, but on a hobbit, they look just like ankle-length pants. Perfecto. The white sand shoes and bright red socks both came from Ardennes. It was the top half of this look that made me get creative, both with my crafty skills and budget. I knew I wasn't going to find a white polo top with red trim like what the Doctor wears, so I found a short sleeve white polo top and used fabric paint to mark out the red trim and the question marks on the lapels. The cricket jumper was the hardest thing to find. I scoured thrift stores for something close, but I got nowhere. I ended up buying it from an eBay seller in the UK. I don't recall exactly how much I paid, but I think it was around $30. The hat also came from a thrift store, and I took apart a thrifted necktie to make the trim. Of course, the pièce de résistance, the signature look of the Fifth Doctor, is that frock coat. I used Simplicity pattern 2895, which is a Western-esque set of men's clothing. The outer fabric is cotton broadcloth, which draped quite well for this look. Fun story time. Originally, in my sewing naivete, I had planned to not line the coat, figuring that no one would actually see the inside, so why should I bother? Ha! Once the coat was assembled, I tried it on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the week before the con, and went, oh crap, I so need to line this. Cue a mad dash to the fabric store around the corner for some satin lining before it closed at 5 o'clock. And let me tell you, the lining made all the difference in the world. It hung better, it felt better, it looked better. I could do a swooshy spin and not have to worry about people seeing the raw edges. For the contrast trim, I used red bias tape, top-stitched all around. And true to Comic-Con tradition, I finished hemming the coat in the hotel room the night before the con. And, oh yes, that final little accessory, the stick of celery. Not many people can carry off a decorative vegetable, but the Fifth Doctor does it so very well indeed. Now, I've seen a couple different options for celery: crochet, sewn, paper cutout. I wanted to do the real thing. And I did. Before leaving for the con, I bought the freshest bunch of celery I could find and picked out the 3 best stalks from the center. I wrapped them in moist paper towel, and as soon as we got to the hotel, stuck them in the bar fridge. The next day, just before we left the hotel room, I picked out the freshest and pinned it to my lapel with floral pins. But I also brought the other stalks, still wrapped in damp paper towel, in a Ziploc bag. About halfway through the day, I swapped out my now slightly wilted stalk for a fresh as a daisy stalk and kept right on trucking. This costume was so much fun both to make and wear, and I hope to wear it again someday. It was also the first cosplay I did that got me any kind of media attention. It got me featured on the EB Games Facebook page and interviewed by Space TV during the Reverse Polarity Convention in 2013. The total cost for this was approximately $100 to $120. I don't recall exactly how much I spent, as it was early days and I really wasn't tracking my budget firmly. And for the final cosplay in this video, we're going back to the world of Firefly. My first cosplay in the verse was Captain Mal Reynolds. I can honestly say that 100% of the clothes for this cosplay were thrifted. The accessories, not so much, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yes, the boots, pants, shirt, suspenders, belt, and coat all came from the thrift store. That is the beautiful thing about Firefly cosplays and what sets them apart from a lot of other sci-fi shows. You can put together a screen-accurate cosplay without having to buy retail. The boots are one of my favorite parts of this outfit. They are super comfy, waterproof, and they look pretty dang sweet. So much so that there have been a couple times in winter that I needed warm boots and didn't want to wear schleppy barn boots, so I dug these out of my cosplay tote and wore them to the grocery store. And felt awesome doing so. There's something about knee-high leather boots that just puts an extra swagger in your step. Like there's no power in the verse that can stop you. The pants are just cotton khakis with a length of brown grosgrain ribbon hand-stitched down each outside leg seam. The shirt is a typical dark red blouse. Nothing fancy about it. The suspenders came from the men's section. Took a bit of scouring, but keep your eyes open and you will find a good pair. Now for the coat. Oh my Lanta. The coat. I could not believe my luck with this coat. And, to quote Mal, it was on sale. This gorgeous piece is a vintage leather coat that I found on clearance at a tiny thrift store on the Bruce Peninsula. Just look at it. Isn't she pretty? I had my fingers crossed when I went to try it on and she fit perfectly. The only thing I changed was the cuffs, specifically adding them. I picked up a purse, again at a thrift store, chopped it into pieces, and stitched and glue gunned the cuffs together. Now, they do look awesome, but it's the one part that I'm not 100% loving, mostly because the cuffs are really stiff and kind of dig into my wrists if I hold my arms the wrong way. But I won't change a thing about it because, I mean, well, look at it. I couldn't ask for a better coat. Well, maybe one a little less hot. This thing is thick and heavy, and on a summer day in a convention hall, you feel it. The belt for the holster once again came from the thrift store, and the holster itself came from eBay. Someday I would love to upgrade it to an actual leather holster because when you look at it close up, it's obviously not real leather, but for distance shots, it works delightfully. Now, you can't play I Aim to Misbehave Mal Reynolds without his trusty sidearm. Like with Canary, I needed something that looked awesome but was con-friendly and that also didn't break the bank. I started with a resin model that I found on eBay, did a little assembly, sanded down the rough spots, and did the entire paint job myself. I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I love doing projects that require distressing and aging, and this was no exception. It was so much fun, and I got to learn how to use a Dremel. When I'm at a con, I have an orange tip that I took off an old Nerf gun, and I use sticky tack to keep it on the end of the barrel. That way I can remove it for photos and still fulfill convention guidelines. One final accessory I like to add, just for funsies, is Mal's wedding day flower crown from the episode Our Mrs. Reynolds. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch it. It is the single funniest episode of the show. This hat made out of a tree makes an appearance for like a minute, but does play an integral part of the plot of the episode. I picked it up several years ago from my local medieval fair, and when I was packing for my first con as Mal, I decided to throw it in my bag for a laugh. And even if people don't always get the reference, they still love the look. The other accessory I have not yet used, but am sorely tempted to one fine day. I have a pretty floral bonnet. If it weren't for the flower crown, I would 100% wear this, and I may swap it out at some point. This I made with my mom when I was maybe 12-ish, when we were studying the Pioneers. I never got rid of it, and now I have a pretty floral bonnet fit for a captain. The total cost for Mal is, I want to say, around $80, not counting the cost of buying a Dremel specifically for this project. It is far and away the comfiest cosplay I have ever done, and one of, if not my most favorite cosplays to do. Especially when Nathan Fillion complimented it during a Q&A panel. So that is my 4 favorite cosplays I have ever done. I hope this was enjoyable to watch and that it gives a little insight into the budget and thrifting side of cosplay. You don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to make an awesome screen-accurate costume. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and stick around. We are almost at 500 subscribers, which is so cool. And once we hit 500 subscribers, we get a community page where we can have polls and updates and chit chats and every good thing. So stick around.